supposed to be a TED Talk style kind of thing. So excuse the extreme philosophical nature of my talk. It's supposed to be brief and convey really deep insight about the brain. Okay.
Okay, I understand why you shouldn't use it. Alright, so a little bit about me. My name is วราศินี ฉายแสงมงคล. I got a Royal Thai Scholarship, Royal Government Thai Scholarship to go to Cornell University in 2004, and there I was a physicist. I basically was studying physics and spent a lot of time looking at gravitons and things like that. And after a while, I decided to pick up another major, and I chose cognitive science. And then after my Cornell experience, I then went to Yale University, where I started to learn and study the brain by mathematical approach. Now that sounds really vague, but today hopefully you will get a more solid understanding of what I have been through in the last 6 years. Okay, so in 2013, the Switzerland-based Human Brain Project was awarded $1.3 billion funding from the European Commission. And the project is a collaboration among 80 institutes. Their mission is to build a human brain model in a silicon substrate. Now, I throw in that fact just to demonstrate the type of worldwide effort that is going on right now in the last 5 years to really truly understand the brain to the point where we can build a human brain. In fact, Obama administration itself has also launched a brain initiative with a mega fund to fulfill the same goal, and this is the mission of the whole field. So I hopefully we see today that this type of movement is not only beneficial for the understanding of neurobiology, but also we have a strong implications for building artificial intelligence and smart robots as well in the future. So during my PhD, I was in brain lab. This is basically the lab at the forefront of this effort. And these people, they were former physicists, mathematicians, and they get together to okay. So and these people get together, we call ourselves theoretical oasis. We obtain experimental data from various labs, the neurobiological lab at Yale, and across several institutes in the US. They share us their data, and then we model the brain. We model various circuits of the brain. Each of them are basically modeled each circuit. And why is this effort so hard? Why is this so challenging? Human brain is probably the toughest system to study because it's just huge and it's so complex. We have billions of neurons in the brain connected to each other in a very complex way. And also because there's not much we could do to observe the neurons, what the neurons are doing when the brain is alive and at work. So of all the techniques we know on how to image the brain here, they are either too limited in spatial resolution or temporal resolution, or they're probably too invasive. Overall, we just have frustratingly little information about this large system that defines who we are. And that's why we need something like a theoretical model to bridge the gap between what we can observe and what we want to understand, which is the process of neural computations. And that's what we're trying to understand. So, and this is what computational neuroscience wants to do. We're doing this by integrating knowledge from 3 interrelated fields. One is data mining for analyzing brain images and organisms or the behaviors of organisms. The second is math modeling to construct a biologically realistic model of each neuron and put them on the neural network. And lastly, machine learning to lastly, machine learning to basically discover the right parameters of the model based on the data. So it sounds like a really new field. It's actually a new field. There's only 50 years of development behind it, but a lot of artificial intelligence technology that we know today are basically inspired by the field. So for the data mining part, we basically started with brain images. So this could mean electrophysiology. In this case, is they basically take an animal, implant electrodes on its brain, have it done certain tasks, and then monitor the neurons' spiking potentials and the firing rates of each neuron, and that's the type of imaging that we have. Or something more familiar, EEG, which is measuring the electrical potentials of a neural population, of course, that emit through the scalp. And even fMRI data that look at the oxygen level of the brain. The list of imaging techniques goes on and on. These are just the types of images that I have done before. Then we throw a bunch of data mining techniques to these huge data sets and extract the features, try to get insights about what those data might be telling us about the brain and how we make a model. And then comes the back model. And here, we basically take this biological system, which is a neuron, design a set of elaborate sets of differential equations in order to model the dynamics of electrical signal in and out of the neurons. And usually this model is so complex that we cannot build a huge network out of it, otherwise the dynamics will just get out of hand. So what we were doing back then was basically hook these neurons or neural population, hook these complex neurons into a simple kind of synaptic structure with just a few neurons. And this model will have just a few parameters where we can tweak, we can throw it in state space analysis, see what kind of parameters lead to what changes in the dynamics of the network. And if we fine tune it long enough, and find that these populations starting to demonstrate the behavior, the dynamical behavior start to resemble what we saw in the data, then we call that the model of the brain, and that's the approach that has been going on. And it's certainly not a terrible approach. We've done it, I've published on it, it's fine, and it's still dominating the field of neuroscience right now. But in the last 5 years or so, we started to be able to make a more complex and also large-scale brain model using, because of the recent breakthroughs in technologies. So first of all, parallel computations become cheaper, so we can run thousands of simulations at the same time. The data storage is still is also cheaper, and the recording technology becomes better. So now we get bigger and better data, and it's freely available, and we can share those more freely. But I think the most important breakthrough is more mature algorithm. Now there are a lot of clever algorithms that will help us find a model that we couldn't come up with by our own brains. So I think that's really the heart of it. And these algorithms, this first one I mentioned here is reinforcement learning. This is probably half of my thesis, but I'm not going to talk about it today. Instead, I'm going to talk about the other half, which use deep learning. So reinforcement learning here is about defining some kind of objective or reward objective for the agent to optimize, and the agent can learn to explore different behaviors, try to develop a strategy in order to get more and more, instead of giving them certain output to replicate. But deep learning is a technique that has become famous in the last few years. It basically has been dominating the computational benchmarks in terms of its performance in difficult tasks. And what is deep learning? Deep learning basically utilizes complex hierarchical structure of neural network in order to model very abstract and complex input-output relationship. And since the model itself is basically inspired by the brain, later on people start to realize that this network can perform exceptionally well on tasks where humans are still better than robots, like automatic video annotation or speaker identification tasks. So that has boosted the popularity of deep learning in the last few years. And ironically, both of the algorithms were developed by computer scientists inspired by how the brain works. But now these days, these two algorithms that travel back from machine learning to neuroscience, and now we use these two extensively in order to build a model of the brain itself, to just understand the nature of the brain itself. Okay, so we use machine learning approach to study cognition. And we should first ask, what is the most salient features of cognition? So one important feature is that thoughts tend to come in serial order. Like for example, during the weekend, you probably know, you'll probably be familiar with asking yourself, what should I buy at which shop? And once you get to the shop, where could you find the good? And another important property of thoughts is it's highly associative. We often think in terms of associative categories. So going back to the grocery store example, you walk in the store, you constantly take the image that you see objects with different physical attributes, and you took them, and then you categorize them according to some kind of functional construct. And this helps you interact with the world more effectively and help you interact with the world more efficiently. So my collaborator, David Friedman, he has a lab at the University of Chicago, and he studied the serial categorical thought process in a monkey. He was using neurophysiology. So what happened? They brought 4 monkeys and they trained them. They trained those monkeys to learn serial categorical tasks. And the tasks go like this. First, the monkey was sitting in front of the screen. It will be shown a group of dots that is moving in a certain direction. Then after the delay, it was shown another group of dots that are moving in maybe the same or different directions. And at the end, the monkey just had to say whether these two stimuli belong to the same or different categories, while the categories were just assigned by experimental arbitrarily. So the monkeys is playing these video games while experimenter put electrode into their brain. And they have reported over 700 neurons from various parts of the brain, and generously just to share the data so that I can make the model of this kind of thought process. So we know from decades of literature, we know that these areas are heavily involved in the categorical decision process. Very much like robots, this circuitry consists of sensor and motor. So the MT, medial temporal cortex, is known for sensing direction of objects' movement. The primary motor cortex is known for issuing a motor command. But what we are curious about are not these two. It's actually the prefrontal and parietal areas of the brain, which is probably the most intelligent subcircuit in our brain. And we learned that these two are responsible for associating sensory input to the motor output. So these are the associative circuit. And from literature, we also know that we know pretty well how these areas behave. Like if you would just punch electrodes into this area and image the circuit, you will see this type of time series signal where the MT would basically just faithfully represent the object, direction of object movement in degrees when the object is on. And when the object disappears, it will just become noise. So we just model this MT as a noisy encoder, real-time encoder of the object movement. And we also happen to know that in the motor cortex, we saw something like this. Whenever the monkey is about to trigger a movement, you see a ramp up of activity to a certain threshold. So overall, we know what's the input, what's the output. What we need to figure out is what recurrent circuit that is in between, in the associative area, that turn this into that. And this recurrent circuit must be able to do correct input-output matching, statistical matching of these two. And has to do it across hundreds of conditions that this task has. So to discover such network, I mean if you truly want to have a recurrent network and model such thing, it is really not a trivial task. So what we did was we just started with randomly connected network. The scale of the network is quite big in compared to the academic standard. This is around 200 units of neurons, and they are connected randomly. There are over 30,000 synaptic parameters to optimize here. And if you look at the literature like 7 years ago, people will say to training a truly recurrent network of this nature is not really possible. Because imagine a recurrent network is basically a very, very deep network. Say the network at the state of time t equals 1 constitute a layer, then send the information to the network state at time t equals 2 and so on. So if you count the number of time steps from the moment when the monkey was looking on the screen to the moment when the monkey issued a motor command, you see 200 layers. This is a network, very deep network of 200 layers that we had to train. And due to many numerical and mathematical issues 5-7 years ago, this is not possible to train such network. But now we have newer techniques, and what we use is Hessian-free algorithm, which is a second order optimization problem, and then and this algorithm then finally can train a recurrent network of such complexity. So we can see that, but this is not just that, right? This is a model of the brain. So we can't just train any network and when it can perform for the brain. We have to identify constraints, and that's where a lot of times go in. To define a lot of mathematical constraints in order to make this network resemble the brain as much as possible. For example, the connectivity has to be sparse because our brain has sparse connectivity, and the neural firing rate must not be negative because you cannot have negative firing rates, and so on and so forth. So all these constraints were added in order to make this model. So after much experiments, we find the right way to train the model, playing categorization game, and here is the performance of the artificial network compared to the animal subjects. And you can see that the profile of performance as a function of task difficulty also resemble the animal subject. So note that we could have trained the model to be completely top score in all these levels and even perform better than the monkeys, but we didn't do that because that's not the point. The point is to introduce the stochasticity and randomness into the model because that would mimic the exploratory behavior of the animal. And that's what we're trying to capture. We want to mimic the monkey's brain. And what's amazing is that, like, after all those optimizations, when we cracked open the system at the end when it was trained, we saw something like this, where the top row here is the real electrophysiological data from the PLAP and PFC areas of the monkey's brain, and the bottom is my artificial network activity. So you can see that the bottom line is these two are extremely similar in terms of its feature. For example, we saw signals that encode categories. We saw heterogeneity in we saw time-varying profiles, and the temporal profiles have heterogeneity, and the statistics of the network are remarkably resemble what the monkey's brain showed us. So at this point, we were just really excited because this means we built a circuit on computer that is a pretty good model of the monkey's brain while it's thinking. But when one looks at the individual neuron signal, it's just not very inspiring. It's just noisy and scattered. So in order to get another level of understanding about how the brain actually thinks, we really have to go to the population dynamics, and that's where the profound insights started to emerge. So the network connectivity we found is self-organized into and form a dynamical landscape. So what we call it, a dynamical landscape, it's a profile of the state space that look like this, and it guides the movement of neural trajectories. So this landscape can have like dynamical features like a fixed point, like a value fixed point, an unstable set of points, and most excitingly, it can form a tube or tunnels where the neural set can roll along a confined path. And that's basically the neural state as the monkeys or as we are thinking about certain things. So once we look at the landscape of the trained network, this network has been trained through serial categorization game, we found something like this. We found that as the network, first of all, the terrain of this neural landscape it's just a collection of fixed points and saddle points that are located in different parts of state space, and they are all connected by dynamical tubes. So as the network goes through the thought process, we saw that the neural state being propelled and bifurcated along this dynamical playground. And so it's very much like the water flowing into the network of complex pipes. So here is basically the 3D projection of our artificial network trajectories. And you see that for different conditions of the task or different conditions of this game, the neural state of my model is hopping from one, the crosses here and the stars here are saddle and fixed point, and these are the tubes. So the neural state of my model is hopping from one state to another through a tube. And this is basically how categorization, working memory, decisions are being done. It's just done by the movement of state through dynamical landscape that was constructed by training. So it's all fun there when you just look at the network, but what does the real monkey brain actually does? So in order to find out, we performed a population analysis. The top here is the circuitry of real monkey brain. At the bottom is my model. If we do population analysis, and then you see that this overall picture of population trajectories are very similar between the monkeys and the model, and this is very exciting. Again, I don't know how to convey that because really previous models have never been able to capture this phenomenon in such an elaborate and compelling way. That's just a start of many things. I just don't have time to go through everything, but just imagine what if we can train it to do more complex games. For example, what I've tried is to say, what if there are multiple categories, rules that you have to juggle while you look at them? What if you have to classify a certain group of stimuli based on different rules? It's just the exact same stimuli, but when the rule change, you have to try to figure out what the rule is and perform categorization accordingly. So all these complex games has been trained, my model has been trained, and the resulting network really have a powerful predictive capability for the real neurophysiological data that were published out there. All right. So looking forward, I'm looking to really bringing this body of knowledge to study more complex thought process, maybe the process finding hard to do. For example, the thought process, the serial thought process of understanding human language, for example, could in principle be modeled by the complex landscape of recurrent network as well. So that's what I'm trying to explore next. And also, I'm looking to take this idea and apply it to analyze bigger and better data and more unstructured data that were out there for the hope of developing a technology that will hopefully better the life of us all. So that's the end of my talk. And questions?
So when you have the neural trajectory, what is the axis in the three-dimensional thing?
It's basically a principal component analysis. So it's similar to principal component analysis. It's just basically looking at the dimension that capture most variance due to the task conditions. Most variance in response due to task conditions. I think of it as a PCA. I don't think it's that big.
Yeah, I can see it sounds like a three-dimensional PCA, but I just don't know what's the input of that. So,
Oh, the input of that is basically the activity. I tell my network to do the task, right? By showing it the stimuli, it does the task.
So it's a stimuli response.
Right. Basically, the network stimuli response.
Can we use these techniques to model something else?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Like not just random.
pretty much anything. Pretty much any set of time series. Any set of time series. Imagine like a string of characters that is in Thai, and the output can be a string of characters in English. Any type of statistical time series that can have some probability of being correlated, you'll plug it in and discover the relationship.
But it has to be recurrent.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
If you just build a deep network and you do the 10-layer deep network, then that's performing just fine in one task.
Like for example, back to my presentation for accessibility. For example, if you slider to cut something, and so the input is divided as some parameters. So the output is success of the. So can we use this technique to model some physical?
Right. Usually, if the signal is basically heavily processed, the way you said, where you're just mapping a few parameters, you can just use neural network. But for this, it means that it can discover even more complex, abstract association. For example, the video cameras that we're looking at the processes gone by, you can map that with say other time series that you want to model, for example. So it could be much. This is powerful. It is exceptionally powerful when you put it in the context where abstract information is really not obvious. Yeah, the association is really not obvious.
Do you know why neuron signals always like music? Is it like some benefit that comes from the noise?
Yeah, well, this is a huge mystery. First of all, no one knows where stochasticity comes from. But my guess, at least what I believe, is that we want to be a little bit random. Like if you are monkeys, you don't want to always pick the optimal solution. Say if you are hanging in the trees and eating apples, you don't want to stick to the same apple tree because it's highest reward. You want to explore a little bit because there might be another tree out there that has more apples and you get fatter, you get there. So on the long term, if you want to optimize in the long term or survive, you should always be a little bit random, and that's a function of the noise.
So noise is good in case of like you want to develop or evolve.
What is it?
Because you said that if there is a little bit noise, it mean like a you give example like not sit at the same position of the apple tree, right? But so if there is noise, it mean like you it's better to evolve for the living thing, right?
Right, it's better to evolve because you explore new things. Like I mean this is like in reinforcement learning. If you know it's controlled the exploratory factor. after.
Just want to ask a little bit, almost the first slide of you that you show about the model of the something you said like a memory working, something like that.
Working memory. Like this one.
Yeah, the one before. No, sorry.
The one after?
After, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Oh,
one.
yeah.
The one on your right side. I just a little bit interested, but how can I find this model from which paper or?
Oh, these my boss, Xiaojun Wang, the guy that I showed. This guy, he's really the godfather of those models. Imagine how he extremely pissed off when I came up with the model, and it's not the same as what he thought it should be. But yeah, he's really great at he accepts what I do.
But if I want to learn about that model later, so I just search his name, right?
Yeah. I can give you a reference.
Thank you.
Alright, cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, we hope you enjoy this little talk, and this is for the first time, and we try to arrange this for maybe once a month at least. Yep, and thank you for participating and listen to our officer. And just one thing before you go, I would like to ask you for some assistance. We have some questionnaires, so we know more that okay, is this good or not, and we want to like more opinions. All right, thank you.